Welcome, everyone. We are starting a new series with Mr. Manoj Kohli, and I'll introduce Manoj, even though he doesn't really need an introduction, in just a minute here. But we're starting a new series to delve into the topic of transformation in organizations. And of course, a lot of this transformation is taking the shape of digital transformation, right? Technology enabled transformation. Manoj, as many of you know, is one of the iconic executives, global executives, with an incredible history and background, where he led many different organizations, including organizations like Escorts, organizations like Airtel, which is one of the largest telecoms in India and around the world. As well as organizations like SoftBank, which is an investment firm. So, Manoj, really happy to have you, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Razat.
Let me start off with what's sort of happening around the world, right? It seems like when Ray Kurzweil taught the world about the rate of change being exponential, not linear, it's really coming to life, right? I just think about the amount of change the world has gone through in the last 3 years was greater than what change took place in the previous 15 years in total, right? And probably the next 2 to 3 years will be more change than what we've experienced in the last 10 to 15 years as well. And all organizations are dealing with changes right now, right? And a lot of that is being caused by geopolitical changes, all the technology innovations. All of us in technology are innovating, and that's causing a lot of changes in how organizations absorb these changes and these innovations. And of course, some of the changes are also being caused by generational and demographic changes as well in the end consumer as well. And I know you have a deep insight into consumers, having dealt with a lot of consumer companies. How do you see organizations grappling and dealing with all this change?
No, you are absolutely right, Razat. The era of constant disruptions has started. So change is a very small word. It's about disruptions. For example, on technology, the impact in the next 10 years could be more than last 100 years.
Yes.
And consumer dynamism is at the peak. So if you combine these two, I mean, forget geopolitical or regulatory, I forget that for a minute, but if you combine just these two, the technology changes,
right,
and the consumer's mind or consumer behavior changes.
Right.
These two itself are very tough for any organization to imbibe or understand. But I think our first job as business managers is to understand consumer.
Right.
Understand how can I go to that guy, my consumer, faster, at an affordable rate, and with better responsiveness.
Right.
With better product, with better service. And I think that's the biggest challenge of a leader.
Yes.
And I love this challenge. It's a fantastic challenge for any leader. And I've seen businesses for 46 years now. These businesses were so static, so stable.
Yeah.
Now they are not. Every day it's a new business. It's a new consumer, a new technology.
Yeah.
And to connect all these dots is the leadership challenge.
Yeah.
And connecting these dots is a leadership satisfaction also.
Yeah. That's one of the things I find fascinating and so fun about being in technology is that it's not static. It's not stagnant, right? It's constantly changing and morphing. But that also requires, for individual leaders, but also for organizations, to develop a muscle around keeping pace and learning and adapting and being agile, right? How are organizations being able to keep pace with all these things that are getting hit and changing on a week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year basis? That's one question. And the second question is, as they're doing that, are there things that still need to stay constant? Of course, many things have to change and you have to learn and adapt. But are there certain elements that you need to have conviction to keep, that needs to be stable as a bedrock that allows you to actually deal with all these changes?
I feel are your mission and your values, the core values, have to be the bedrock.
Yeah.
Your values, your ethics, the way you behave, the way you respect,
Yeah.
the way you build an organization which is open, transparent, honest, is the bedrock. The leadership challenge now is at three levels. The first level is the leadership itself.
Right.
The leadership has to be very, very open, agile, internally strong.
Yeah.
By that, I mean the minds and bodies of leaders have to be very strong internally and very secure. Because if you're not secure as a leader, then you can't build a secure organization.
Right.
So that is one. And plus, leaders have to also show their vulnerabilities. Leaders can't show that we are the end all, we are the most powerful guys, we can do anything. No,
Right.
you can't.
Right.
So the more they show vulnerabilities, the more they share
Right.
openly, I think they can attract the organizations much more.
Yeah.
So that's the first level. Second level is the masses of people, masses of your team and staff.
Yeah.
And that is where is the big challenge of communication and convincing
Yeah.
the masses, the team, that you have to learn fast.
Yeah.
And you have to learn how to apply the new learning fast.
Yeah.
If you don't build that culture,
Yeah.
you will never force it, because every
Yeah.
organization, especially the old ones, have a trained incapacity not to learn.
Right.
Because they
Right.
know the success they had 20 years back, that success factor
Yeah.
of olden age, whenever 10 years
Right.
back,
Right.
actually becomes your nemesis.
Exactly.
So you have to build a new, fresh success
Yeah.
factor every day.
Yeah.
Because the customer is changing every day.
Yes.
The government is changing. Technology is changing. How
Yeah.
can you be static?
Yeah.
So as a leader, you have to first get yourself right, then get the teams right,
Yeah.
and then get your external partners right also.
Right.
Because you have maybe 100 partners you're working with.
Sure.
If they're not aligned with your goals,
Sure.
so that's the three levels I have worked in the, for example, Airtel is one of the organizations I led.
Yeah.
From 1 million to 400 million customers in 20 countries. And I think the big focus was on constant change.
Yeah.
The leadership was catalyzing the change
Right.
rather than resisting the change.
Right.
So if people look at the leader or a bunch of 10, 15, 20 leaders, senior
Yeah.
leaders, accepting and embracing the change themselves,
Yeah.
walking the talk, then they will change much faster.
Sure.
We as a team, we commissioned 36,000 new towers
Wow.
in 12 months,
Yeah.
which was 3,000 a month and 100 per day. And these are 40, 60, 80 meter towers with 39 regulatory approvals.
Right.
Steel, cement, all that.
So many things have to come together for that to.
in one.
Yeah.
And by the way, that location could be on Himalayas.
Yes.
That location could
Very
be in
remote
Guwahati,
areas,
very
yeah.
remote areas.
Yeah.
So it's all happening together.
Yeah.
100 a day, one every 15 minutes.
Wow.
Now, this demanded huge teamwork. So the
Yeah.
culture of teamwork,
Yes.
backed by technology, backed by a very clear mission,
Yes.
is the magic
Right. Right.
which leadership can do. And we did it. We didn't achieve 100% of the target. We achieved about 99%
Right.
of the target,
Right.
which was very good.
Yeah.
And I feel that that's one symbolic example of how leaders can get technology and consumer expectation to be bonded together
Yeah.
to achieve the goal,
Yeah.
achieve the business goal of profitability.
Yeah. Now, just building on that theme of change and, like you said, the importance of leadership and culture, which is underpinned with a sense of purpose, with the mission and values, they're still constrained by capital and resources. Most companies are still, the demand is going to be higher than the actual capacity. So decision making becomes really important. And how are you thoughtfully deciding what to prioritize on? How are you thinking about where to invest your finite capital and resources? Any good examples or nuggets of wisdom in terms of how to go about thinking about prioritizing? Because otherwise, if you're not careful, you can also have a lot of change fatigue in the organization as well.
Before a leader comes to the decision, he or she has to decide what is the model, what is the business model. Because the business models, Razat, which are coming out of Western world, are very expensive and capital heavy.
Yep. Yep.
And you have a choice. And I think countries like China, India, many other countries are using their choice to do the same thing with a new business model, which is innovative,
Right.
which is tech focused,
Yep.
which is led by not that capital heavy goal, but by
Sure.
light capital goal.
Yep.
So that is the first decision you have to take.
Yeah.
And examples I'll tell you. Lenskart, a eyewear company.
Yep.
They are building a eyewear global business based on much lighter investments.
Yeah.
But use of AI
Yes.
to identify the face of the customer
Yeah.
and recommend to him affordable glasses, affordable frames,
Yep.
which he or she can buy
Yep.
just by looking at the app.
Yeah.
So I'm saying they made and delivery to the customer within 48 hours.
Yeah.
So another example, Ola Electric,
Sure.
EV company
Yeah.
with no background is now one of the largest EV companies in India and one of the top 5 in the world,
Yeah.
with very high focus on technology and automation,
Yeah.
which traditionally auto companies don't have.
Right.
Another example, Zomato
Sure.
and Blinkit. Now these are together. These are 2 Indian examples.
Sure.
One is the food delivery, other is the quick service delivery.
Yep.
Quick delivery,
Yeah.
10 minutes,
Yeah.
which has made the major competitors like Amazon, Flipkart and others
Right.
have to rethink their business models,
Yeah.
because their business model are 24-hour,
Yeah.
36-hour business
Yeah.
models. Now we have a 10-minute business model.
Yeah.
And the same thing is being done by DeepSeek.
Yeah.
You know, much
Yes.
more affordable, much faster,
Yeah.
small model, but open source.
Yeah.
I'm saying the world is very rapidly now moving to new business models.
Yeah.
Now, once you decide the model,
And in all of those examples, one of the things that's a consistent theme is that the innovation leads to dramatically reduced unit costs.
absolutely, absolutely.
Like the unit economics are so much more attractive. I mean, that's a big part of the innovation that a lot of
Absolutely.
those examples are doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Massification of technology
Yeah.
is for the first time happening.
Yeah.
Earlier, technology used to be a rich man's baby.
Right.
Technology could be used by few people
Right.
who had money in their pocket.
Right.
Now, we are talking of massification. We're talking of middle class, lower middle class,
Yeah.
poor people. Everyone should use it
Yeah.
and deserve to use it.
Right.
For example, in telecom, our Airtel tariff was 15, 16 paisa. Now, I don't know.
Right.
In cents, it will be very small.
Yes. Yes.
Very small.
Yes.
And on 15 paisa, we earn more than 50% EBITDA margin.
Wow.
So there is a business model
Yes.
which is low cost, very low
Yes.
cost, maybe lowest cost in the world, and with highest margins in the world.
Yes.
You see that it
Yes.
seems a dichotomy, but actually it
It
is not.
sounds like, contradictory, but it's not.
It's not, because you have creative.
Yeah.
You used your creative mind
Yeah.
to create an innovative business model. So you can actually go far ahead of the existing business models,
Yeah.
which have been in the world for 50 years or 100 years,
Yeah.
and do something fresh,
Yeah.
do something new, do something light,
Yeah.
do something far lower capital cost.
Yeah.
And then it's easier for you to prioritize capital.
Yeah. And it's very interesting because in some ways, necessity is the mother of all inventions, right?
Yes.
So in markets like India or China, particularly on the consumer side, I mean, both the volume and density is at such an unprecedented level compared to anywhere else in the world. Companies have to innovate,
Absolutely.
right? You've got to think out of the box. You can't just apply everything that is happening in Europe or the US. A lot of it you can apply. Don't get me wrong, But a lot of times you've got to think out of the box because the scale of the problem, because of the number of people involved and the density, is at a whole different level.
Because you're right, scale is much bigger.
Yeah.
And it is a scale of consumers who are not that well off.
Yeah.
That also
Yeah.
is important. The
Yeah.
paying capacity of the customer is much lower.
Yeah.
And therefore, you need to invent something which is more affordable
Yeah.
for the masses.
Yeah.
And the moment you do that, economies of scale come in.
Yeah.
With every let's say 10 million customers more,
Yeah.
your scale changes and hence your margin improves.
Yeah.
So I think this is a different kind of a magic,
Yeah.
which I think the Western world should also learn.
Yes.
Because I think this magic is far more, and I think Western world learning slowly because
Yeah.
the physical infrastructure which has been established in Europe and US
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Sure.
Whereas in
So-
Asia,
Yeah.
that has not been established.
Yes.
Therefore, digital infrastructure
Yeah.
is getting a priority.
Yes.
Where it's cheaper, it's faster to install and commission.
Yeah.
So therefore, I feel that this model
Yeah.
is a new model which is doing very well.
Yeah. Yeah. But building on the theme of innovation, right? What I find is, we as a technology company, we've got to constantly be innovating, right? But the nature of innovation is such that you have to be willing to strike the right balance between trying and it not working out and failing, and trying on something else, right? So it's almost like you've got to have a portfolio of initiatives that you're experimenting with. You've got to allow for the room for experimentation and research, and almost like that the dictum of fail often, fail fast, right? And yet drive accountability to delivering on the financial outcomes that your shareholders are expecting. And that sounds, I know, very simple to do, but it's as you and I know, that's a constant day-to-day thing, right? Any sort of insights on that? How should organizations think about striking the right balance? How should leaders sort of look at the trade-offs?
So I can share with you what I did.
Yeah.
Wrong or right, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so building an innovation engine
Yeah.
is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Engine which is supported by a very open culture which accepts mistakes,
Yeah.
but tells you not to repeat mistakes.
Right.
Tells you to cut the cost of the mistake immediately
Right.
so that you can get on to the next idea or
Yeah.
next pilot.
Right.
I feel that getting that in mind
Yeah.
in the organization is very, very important.
Yeah.
Maximum guys should be in touch with the consumer every day.
Yeah.
Listen to the consumer, what he or she wants,
Yeah.
what are the new articulated expectations or even unarticulated expectations of the consumer. Pick those things up,
Yeah.
bring it back to the pilot, build a pilot in the organization, do a pilot fast,
Yeah.
come back, check the results. And maybe if you listen to the customer properly, it'll work.
Yeah.
Or maybe some fine tuning, it'll work.
Yeah.
So the success ratio actually grows
Yeah.
if you're closer to the customer. If you're listening to the customer,
Yes.
better.
Yes.
If you're not listening, obviously you'll have more failures.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done. Build an innovation engine.
Yeah.
Build a culture of listening to the consumer constantly. Coming back, building a new feature, new product, new service,
Yeah.
and going back to do a pilot in a small market
Yes.
so that the world doesn't know about this. Quietly do a pilot.
Yeah.
You let the pilot succeed.
Yeah.
And then launch.
scale up.
Then
Yeah.
scale up
Yeah.
commercially.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think this way you will still have failures. I'm not saying that there'll be zero failures. You will still have, but low cost failures.
Yeah.
Fast failures.
Yeah.
As you said rightly.
Yeah.
And you get on to the next pilot fast.
Yeah.
So if this engine moves, you know what happens? Your competition is always reacting to you.
Yeah.
You are moving ahead because you are busy in the consumer's mind. Your mind is in the mind of consumer. Your
Yes.
team's mind is in the mind of consumer.
Sure.
You're moving fast, leveraging technology.
Yeah.
And the moment you launch something and it is a success, your competition reacts
Yeah.
and maybe copies you
Yeah.
or does something similar.
Yeah.
But by the time they do it, you are on to something else.
Yes.
You're on to something else. So you are always moving ahead, two steps ahead of the competition. And that's what makes you a leader.
Yeah.
That's what gives you higher profits.
Yeah.
That's what makes you a great brand.
Yeah.
You know? So it's about a innovation engine, which is rock solid, listening to the customers, supported by a very open, flexible, transparent culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which allows you to experiment, allows you to make some mistakes.
Yeah.
Because the moment you create a fear psychosis around mistakes, you will kill that culture.
Yes. Yeah, you know, and somebody taught this to me, this whole idea of, you know, dream big, start small, scale fast.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? And in that cycle, you've got to be willing to, you know, allow for that experimentation.
Yes.
Which by its very nature, you know, you're not going to work everything. I mean, at Planview, we do hackathons, internal hackathons with our teams, right? Anyone and everyone can provide ideas, right? And then we go through a process where we, you know, present to each other as an organization. We look at the top, you know, 3 to 5 ideas, and then we end up funding those, right? And it's just a great process where there is no bad idea. That's the starting principle. To your point, there's no bad idea.
No.
But again, you can't fund everything. You've got to go ahead and prioritize somehow. But allowing for that process to exist, and a culture where people are always thinking creatively, has been a great bedrock for coming up with all kinds of ideas that people can't just think about sitting in a boardroom or in a dark room by themselves. Right?
Yeah, teams. I'll tell you. I mean, I've challenged teams that, okay, tell me, you have got 10 ideas.
Yeah.
Which of these 10 customer will love?
Yes.
Rate those ideas, prioritize those ideas first on customer's mind.
Yeah.
He or she will love it.
Yeah.
Number 1, number 2, and then come to capital, then come to cost, then come to things later.
100%.
So once you pick up customer's mind very, very effectively, I think I can tell you one thing: cost becomes manageable.
Yeah. You know, very early in my career, I worked as a product manager, right? And to this day, I encourage our own product managers within Planview, right? Is you've got to take the time to understand the day in the life of the customer, or the persona that's going to be interacting with your technology, with your application, right? And a lot of times customers will be very prescriptive about what their needs are in terms of features, capabilities, functions. A lot of times, what's even more important than what they're telling you what they need is understanding what are their pain points.
Yes.
Right? What are they struggling with, right? Because understanding those pain points and then mapping that with all the technology innovations is where the magic happens. Then you can build an application, you can build capabilities that will address that in a meaningful way, which is where the value comes, right?
Actually, the crux is the pain points.
Yeah, but the key to that is, to your point, the engagement with the customers.
Yes, and deeply understanding the pain points.
Yeah.
And bringing it back into the organization fast. It's actually simple, let me tell you, Razat. This is simple. I don't know why management across the world has made it complicated and complex. Understanding the pain points, getting it back to the organization, and then going back to the customer and telling him, this is what is the solution we are thinking of. What do you think?
Yeah.
And the customer says, no, make this change. I'm not happy with this. So customer will suggest 1 or 2 changes.
Yeah.
Make those changes, and then launch a pilot.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
It's not complicated.
Yeah.
We have, I shouldn't say we. A lot of organizations have made this too complex.
Yes.
Made this into too arduous.
And
it's not that.
Isn't that part of the recipe as well? In fact, the bigger you get, the harder you have to work at maintaining simplicity.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why the organizations I have supported, we have always got entrepreneurial spirit and entrepreneurial culture. The soul of a small company in a large company.
Yes.
You could be 100,000 people. That doesn't mean that you'll be slow.
Yeah.
Why should you be slow?
Yeah.
You should be entrepreneur, which means that you need to give freedom to people to experiment, to make mistakes, to do things better for the customer, to listen to the customer, make some new ideas, give some new ideas. come back with some rectification by the customer. Well, he's the boss, finally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more you do it, the better products you will make and better profits you will make.
Right. So let me switch topics on you. We couldn't possibly have a recording like this without talking about AI, right? I mean, it's 2025, right? And we're going through a very profound time, which I think people will write about 500 years from now, right? But how much of this whole AI revolution that's happening, how much of that is hype versus reality is one question. The second question is, you know, it's one of those pervasive technologies that's going to impact every industry, every organization, no matter who you are, where you are. And in fact, many people are already leveraging AI without realizing it, right? I use Google Maps on the commute from, coming into the office today here, right? And Google Maps leverages AI, Now, I don't have to worry about that because all I need is the app, right? But there's a lot of sophisticated algorithms underpinning that as an example, right? What's your point of view on this, Manoj? Is this hype? Is this something that organizations should think more seriously? What's your point of view on this?
No, I believe, Razat, that this is start of a new reality.
Yeah.
It comes across as hype because many people who are not as well educated about such technologies believe that this will happen overnight.
Yeah.
And that's why it becomes hype.
Yeah.
It's not happening overnight.
Yeah.
It's taking time.
Yeah.
Because we are talking of a transformational change across the world.
Yes.
Across every organization, every app, everything we are doing now.
Yeah.
In terms of work.
Yeah.
So that way it'll take time.
Yes.
So therefore, sometimes when it takes 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, people say it was hype. It was not hype.
Yes.
It is start of a new reality. Look at last 6 weeks.
Yes.
Look at 2 revolutions. NVIDIA, there's a revolution of the most precious company of the world.
Sure.
What, 3-4 trillion.
Yep.
Reality.
Yep.
Building fantastic AI tools, AI models and chips. And then you see last week of DeepSeek, a new reality, which is much more affordable, 3.5% of the cost of AI, OpenAI, much faster, small models, open source. Wait for another few months. You will get new reality.
Exactly.
So this is an evolving technology, evolving reality. And there's no hype because people are, like you said, Google Maps, there's so many other usages which I am going through, maybe unknowingly.
Exactly.
You're going through unknowingly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Unknowingly.
Yeah.
But it's happening.
Yeah.
And behind that is the technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think our lives will change. Our businesses will change. Our customer expectations will change. Our ways of work will change, whether in office or at home. So much change will happen. And we all, especially leaders, should be ready to educate our employees for this change. It's a positive change. It's a very good change.
Yeah. And, organizations and people have to deal with all these changes. But part of that is, going to come with all the things you talked about in terms of culture, leadership, purpose, but also embracing these new technologies, right? And part of being successful in this environment is going to be about dealing with and experimenting of what these enabling technologies, like from AI, are going to enable for you in terms of new products, services, the ways you're going to market, the ways you're operating, the ways you're manufacturing, the ways you're working as an organization. So it's super exciting. And I think that's a great note to end on because these are all going to be themes that Manoj will be exploring and delving into as part of the series with other business leaders. So Manoj, thank you so much for taking the time. Really enjoyed the discussion and hope you did too. Thank you.
Thank you, Razat.